Today I'm going to be talking on return on assets, how to raise the visibility of SOA strategy. Okay. Very quickly, I'm one of the senior consultants with Sensedia. So anyway, let's get started. Some of the basics behind SOA, as we see from Gartner and other companies, many companies today are considering or already have started down the path of the concept of service orientation towards solving their business problems. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about some approaches about how to keep some of the SOA initiatives under control, and really talk about how to leverage a comprehensive set of indicators, something that we call ROA, return on assets. Okay, and also try to provide some linkage between the expectations of the business sponsors as well as the architecture team. Try to raise the visibility of the architect within the organization. Okay? A little more context. SOA adoption has been ongoing for the last 5 years. It's still ongoing. But there's a need to establish some measurements, some metrics on the SOA adoption effectiveness and the ability for reuse. So to paint this picture, I'm going to talk a little bit about a major international insurance institution and some of the challenges that they had regarding their assets in terms of trying to understand the delivery of the assets, the cost of development for the creation of these assets, these technical services and components, try to measure something about reuse and dependency, and really the return on their SOA application. So first, a little more context here. The CEO really is the gentleman who's driving the overall strategic direction of the company, looking to achieve greater agility, market change and demands, looking for innovation. Okay, obviously looking to overall drive increase of productivity, but also focus on reduced costs. But most importantly, it's desired a better visibility into the business through some type of metric reporting. Okay. Our CEO here, again, some of his challenges really have been focused in around things about compliance, reducing systems and development expenditures, and again, this idea of how to calculate, how to deliver these ROA analysis numbers to a CEO. It's a little more context. The enterprise architect, sort of the buck stops here. Some of his main drivers, obviously, are promoting this enterprise reuse of service assets within the organization. But also, he's focusing on things like standards and providing quantitative measurement of reuse. And basically, his job is on the line to demonstrate to the business the IT return on investment, return on asset for his entire enterprise portfolio. And those are assets and services and business processes. Okay? So, again, to paint this picture, the major insurance company story is we're going to illustrate the way that these metrics, the calculation, the collection, the ability to add this information into a repository, but also to be flexible in the collection of the assets, how that will align the enterprise architect's goals with the challenges of the CTO and CEO. Okay. One of the main issues that we found within the insurance company was obviously very disjointed development environment. It resulted in a lot of duplicated efforts within their systems applications portfolio. They had a lack of alignment and accountability towards these new business rules and business agility, and most importantly, they looked towards a way to control the runaway costs in new application development. So, with all of those pain points, what Sensedia, what the insurance company was able to, thank you very much. What the insurance company was able to look for was a path towards reuse with a couple of steps. There's 5 steps process to go out and to do an inventory of their asset portfolio, but really begin to look at the calculation of cost of development between new and reusable services, and be able to calculate a return on asset. They used a basic calculation model as addressed here that basically said that the costs to build a reusable service or component, compared was less than the compared development cost on single use. They were able to drive some different savings per use, especially as these reusable services were deployed within different applications with some break-even calculation. Okay. For our enterprise architect, the first step within the process is to go out and begin an effective inventory of the assets, the business processes, the services that make up his application portfolio. He can do this in one of 2 ways. He can go and look for an automated process to go out and to interrogate. He can look for a manual process with an iterative, collaborative method of examining the different assets. Okay. Once interrogated, these particular assets, they come in a bunch of different classes and packages and services tables. That makes up the knowledge base, okay, of this total inventory that he has to start to take a look at. That's the first, really the beginning step of the process. He needs to run through some type of indications, reusable asset identification indicators, some intelligence to go out and find really if the value of the assets have been predicated or deprecated, and so for versioning, if they really are truly the most valuable key assets within the organization. So there's some intelligence that needs to take place. And we see here in this sort of intelligence gathering process, we see that there's a series of suggested reusable software assets that become identified. And we'll talk a little bit more about how those particular assets are identified. As you see here, a very iterative process. And finally, as these assets become looked at, collaborated, have been commented upon by either the business developers, the business analysts, or within the development team, there's this workflow, this process to publish all of this information to the enterprise repository. Okay, so back to our enterprise architect. Again, we've collected all of this information, all of these different types of assets. There needs to be a process where this information is reviewed and improved upon. Okay, so there's this need for a very flexible metadata model to go out and collect and store the information in an appropriate manner. Also, part of this is it's also very important to start to take a look at sort of the relationship, the interrelationship of all the different types of assets and artifacts that have been captured. So, sort of a diagram model to see what those relationships are. That's the review process. Next within the process, the enterprise architect, in order to develop this return on asset calculation, will need to review the amount of time of development of these particular assets. And he's going to go out and collaborate, or he's going to work with, he's going to ping the software developers, he's going to find out how many hours they have been spending in terms of development. He's going to take a look at the various versioning of the different assets. He needs to talk to the business analysts again to get feedback on who is using the these particular assets. Okay.